Next, as federal authorities search for answers in this week's deadly plane crash in Santee, some of the people who live there question just how safe they really are.
Efforts by the city of San Diego and the county tonight to prevent the further spread of a gastrointestinal virus after an outbreak.
Plus, are more women injured in car wrecks because of the way crash test dummies are designed? We verify.
And rising temperatures, drier conditions, and a fire threat countywide and across Southern California tonight.
Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Marcella Lee.
I'm Carlo Cicchetto. You may have noticed how much warmer it was today, a bit windy and no humidity. It's a recipe for high fire danger.
News 8's Abby Alford has more on the quick action from firefighters that kept a house fire from spreading. It's also a reminder to be prepared during these conditions.
With the warm temperatures and wind picking up in Ramona and in the mountains, firefighters are encouraging people to have a plan for their family and livestock. Firefighters up against Santa Ana winds kept this house fire from spreading any further in Harbison Canyon off of Dehesa Road today.
The wind comes through the Harbison Canyon area pretty strong, so we are grateful that we were able to jump on this one and keep it from getting any bigger. CAL FIRE launched its aircraft, but no drops were needed. CAL FIRE and surrounding crews who assisted by ground were able to put the quarter-acre fire out quickly. A lot of vegetation in this area, so obviously a big concern for us. Unfortunately, the house is a total loss, and the cause is unknown. It really doesn't take that much for the embers to jump from this structure fire into the vegetation. Firefighters say Santa Ana winds, warm temperatures, and low humidity are creating near-critical fire conditions in Southern California. Los Angeles and Ventura counties are already under a red flag warning. We need everybody to be prepared. This isn't the time necessarily to be clearing around your property. The National Weather Service predicts high winds are expected until tomorrow night. CAL FIRE says that there's been reports of 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts in the mountains and 30-mile-per-hour in East County. Still enough wind. It doesn't take a lot this time of year to really push those hot gases, really drive that fire behavior. CAL FIRE hopes homeowners spent last week in the cooler temps clearing brush to create defensible space and using today as a reminder to be prepared. Days like today, look at your evacuation plan. Make sure that you have a plan for your pets, for your other family members, so that you can get out a moment's notice. Firefighters encourage you to avoid using any equipment outside that could spark a fire.
And we definitely had that heat for today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis. West of the mountains, the warmest temperatures were felt in the county as we had highs in the 90s. That was for Oceanside Airport, as well as for Escondido, as well as Vista, and for Fallbrook. We're talking about 80s that stretched even towards the coast because of those Santa Ana winds that started off today as we had some strong gusts, even some gusts up to about 70 miles per hour. Taking a look at current temperatures, we're in the 80s right now. We're seeing that for Escondido, Poway, and the same for El Cajon. Even Chula Vista is at 80 degrees. Still dry out there. We have dry conditions even stretching to the coast with relative humidity values into the 20s. You're still seeing teens and single digits across inland areas. That will be the case for tomorrow as well. Wind speeds are starting to come down. We have 14 miles per hour right now, also in the teens for Campo as well as for Boulevard and for Sill Hill. Gusts are also starting to come down, and we're seeing the 20s and 30s currently, but it's only for the next few hours. As we go into the overnight hours and through tomorrow morning, strong gusts look to return. Some more details on that coming up. Carlo, Marcella.
An FDA advisory panel has given the green light to Johnson & Johnson's request for booster emergency use authorization.
As Skylar Henry reports, this comes after a hearing looking into the need for booster shots for people who received the one-dose J&J vaccine.
Dr. Chatterjee voted yes.
An independent FDA advisory committee voted to authorize a booster dose for people 18 and older with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine at least 2 months after the initial shot.
What we're seeing is that this is a group with overall lower efficacy than we have seen with the mRNA vaccine, so there is some urgency here.
The committee voted to approve the booster dose in spite of concerns about the trial data Johnson & Johnson presented, citing the reduced effectiveness of the vaccine over time.
There could be as many as close to 5 million people who are at risk of hospitalization based on the CDC study. Again, this is still a public health imperative.
FDA officials say the agency may consider taking action at some point to allow Johnson & Johnson recipients to receive a booster shot from either Moderna or Pfizer's vaccines instead of a second J&J shot.
In the real world, all these kind of combinations or extra boosters are already happening. So I think it's a matter of some urgency.
A new study found people with the J&J vaccine were better off getting a booster from either Pfizer or Moderna, but the study has not yet been peer-reviewed.
We don't know from these short-term studies what the longer-term effect of mix and match will be, and we just don't have those data.
The news comes as the Biden administration announced that fully vaccinated international travelers can cross the border into the U.S. beginning November 8th. Skyler Henry for News 8.
Full authorization for booster shots for Johnson & Johnson and the Moderna vaccine could come as early as next week after the CDC takes it up for consideration.
After months of community feedback, the North County Transit District has released its revised plans for fencing along the railroad tracks in Del Mar. The modified plan reduces the total fence length from 2.5 miles to less than 1.5 miles. And instead of a 6-foot chain link fence throughout, much of the revised plan features a 4-foot post and cable barriers. NCTD says the fencing will discourage people from crossing the tracks on foot and will not impact bluff stability.
The shock of Monday's plane crash in Santee is turning into concern about aviation safety.
2 lives were lost, 2 homes destroyed, while several others were impacted. As the community works to pick up the pieces, questions linger. People asking, how can we stop this from happening again?
News 8's Kirsten Holmes is live at Montgomery Field with more. Kirsten?
Hey guys, yeah, like you said, I'm here at Montgomery Airfield. If you take a look behind me, this is where Dr. Sukata Das was supposed to land Monday when his plane crashed about 10 miles away in Santee. And if you take a look, here are a line of Cessnas similar to the one he was flying. Now, while the NTSB investigates why that plane went down, folks in Santee and other neighborhoods around airports are wondering how safe they really are.
We just saw a plane go down. Low altitude alert. Climb immediately.
People are nervous. And when those planes are coming over our city, sometimes they're a little bit lower in altitude.
John Minto is the mayor of Santee. He says this isn't the first time Santee has had to put the pieces back together after a plane crash.
We're going to survive all of this. It's not our first tragedy.
But he and folks who live in neighborhoods around airports are now asking the question,
how could it be avoided?
Montgomery, Gillespie, and Miramar are really intricately tied because their approach paths to their runways crisscross each other. That's where air traffic control comes in and separates those aircraft.
Kevin Carpe runs Diverse Vector Aviation Consulting. It's his job to help companies work better with the aviation community.
When the airports were built, there was really nothing around them. Sparse population. The cities basically moved to the minimum distances from the airport where the airport can act properly.
Carpe says it's an uphill battle to change flight patterns and altitudes.
And as long as they meet those federally mandated minimum safe altitudes, it's deemed safe. You can't regulate aircraft operations, pilot activities, and other factors that may lead into a crash. Can't mandate any regulate that because it's all real time.
Minto says he believes there's more pilot error that needs to be addressed.
A lot of the pilots will fly outside of the actual flight pattern, and they'll come up off the runway and cut short from the west end of town, and then they'll come to the east end of town, cut short in front of the Sky Ranch development.
But Mayor Minto says something's got to be done.
That ceiling should be higher so that people feel safe. Let's respect our community and actually fly the right pattern, stay a good altitude, and be safe over Santee.
One piece of advice Kevin gives communities near airports who are having issues is to immediately start having conversations with those airports and governing bodies about how to coexist. Also, if any changes need to be made, since it's mandated by the federal government, he says that the community and the airport can petition the federal government together.
Kirsten, it's been a really tragically difficult week for Santee, but at least the dialogue is beginning. Do you know how long it takes to get action, to get these changes made, to alter the flight patterns of altitudes around airports?
Yeah, Kevin's advice is to start having those conversations as soon as possible because the changes may not come for 2 years.
All right, Kirsten, thanks so much.
This has been a tragic week in Santiago. 2 people killed, 2 more, a couple injured and burned when their home caught fire in the aftermath of that crash.
Tonight, News 8 photojournalist Colleen Murphy takes a look back at Monday's crash and its impact throughout the week on the neighborhood.
Air 22 Golf, low altitude alert. Climb immediately. Climb the airplane.
At 12:15, we received a call of an aircraft crash.
Is anybody in the house?
We had multiple structures that were fully involved with fire.
Is anybody home? Is anybody inside?
A lady's house was on fire already, and you could see her window. And
we went to her window first.
Yelled for her.
We were yelling for her, and I moved back so they could get her out. And then all of a sudden, everything just started exploding. Just everything started exploding.
We do have multiple confirmed fatalities.
He'd been on that route for so long, and he's just that guy that people just naturally really liked. He was very funny, very open. People just gravitated to him. And when they started a conversation with him, it would continue. And he was just a naturally likable guy.
Very engaged, very connected with the staff, very active in the community, was again, just a very vivacious personality all around.
Let him sit down, let him sit down. We did have 2 victims that were transported to local hospitals.
It was, fortunate that she was in the back room and he was in the backyard, and they're usually sitting right at that big window. It would have pretty much taken them out. So I think it's just, fate stepped in and said, you're not today.
We had multiple structures that were fully involved with fire.
Just to see the rubble, it's just everything that they've built over their lives. I don't think their dog got out.
We've been really blessed to have it only be a structure loss.
Right.
I mean, for both of us not to be there, for the dog to have gotten picked up earlier in the morning, all those things could have been,
Very different.
a very different story to be telling.
Cody wasn't wearing his wedding ring. And to get him back would be amazing. The fact that, we're standing here and that the dog was picked up and that, Phil and Maria, our neighbors, were able to get out safely. Our heart goes out to the UPS driver.
Most of us go to work because we have to. Steve came to work because he wanted to. He could have retired, but he loved his neighborhood. He loved his customers. He loved his job, as you can see.
You guys in this neighborhood, this community, made him really enjoy his job. He really enjoyed working at UPS with the people he worked with, but he really enjoyed. He would always tell me stories of, his people on his route. You people have really made this easier for me and my family to deal with. And I just can't thank you enough for all this coming together. And I really appreciate it. He loved working with all you, or for all you guys. And yeah, I know he's looking down right now smiling. So thank you very much.